Alrighty, hey, how are you? Good.
He's shooting me with staplers.
Alright, today we're talking about how to graph a rational function. If you look at my notes, the first things we always want to identify are the horizontal asymptotes. Because we notice that the exponent on the top is matching the exponent on the bottom, we say that they have an equal degree. So the horizontal asymptote is just y equals 1. So I graph that out, y equals 1. Bye. All right, now let's go to the next thing we need to find. We need to find holes. To find holes, we factor the top, we factor the bottom, and see if anything cancels. Well, the top would factor into x plus 1, x minus 1. The bottom would factor into x minus 3, x plus 1. And notice that the x plus 1s on the top and the bottom cancel. All right? Because of that, this x plus 1, if I were to solve him equal to 0, negative 1, this value gets canceled out of the problem. He creates a hole. All right? Now remember that a hole is a point. So this hole needs an x coordinate and a y coordinate. I know the x coordinate is going to be negative 1. How do I find the y coordinate? Well, what I do is I take the simplified fraction, y equals, well, since x plus 1 is gone, I'm only left with an x minus 1 on the top. And on the bottom, I'm left with an x minus 3. I take this negative 1 and I plug him into the x in the simplified fraction here and here. When you do that, you get y equals negative 2 over negative 4, so 1/2. So I know there's going to be a hole located at the point negative 1 comma positive 1/2. So now that I've found my holes, I now need to define my vertical asymptotes. My vertical asymptotes are anything that makes the bottom 0 after we simplify the fraction. So let's see here, I'm left with this simplified fraction. What would you read my vertical asymptote would be? What makes this bottom 0? 3. X equals 3 would be what would make the bottom 0, right? So my vertical asymptote is x equals 3. So let's see here. I've got my horizontal asymptote graphed. My vertical asymptote is x equals 3. Negative 1 comma 1/2 will be right here with a hole. And now I need my branches. Well, to get my branches, I know that this guy, his branch will look something like this. But it looks like he's going to cross both the x-axis and the y-axis. So I know I need to find an x-intercept and a y-intercept. So let's go ahead and do the math on that. To find the x-intercept and the y-intercept, let me shrink these guys down. To find the x-intercept and the y-intercept, let's see, to find the y-intercept, I take the simplified fraction, which is x minus 1 over x minus 3. Don't I just replace 0 for x? So I get y equals negative 1 over negative 3, so 1/3. So 0 comma 1/3 is my y-intercept. All right, so that would be right here. To find my x-intercept, I plug 0 in for y and solve for x. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is important. You cannot do switcheroo here. You can never switch a root if there's a 0 over here, only if that's a non-zero number. So the only way to solve this is I actually have to cross multiply the x minus 3 across. What's x minus 3 times 0?
0.
So I get 0 equals x minus 1. Solving for x, I get x equals 1. So I know that I have an x-intercept of 1 comma 0. So I graph that guy out. So taking a look at this, I've got my x-intercept, I've got my y-intercept. We said there was a hole at negative 1 comma positive 1/2. I've got 3 points on this one branch here. So we got that. I always want to hug my asymptotes right there. And I've got that. Now the only other thing is I know there's a branch on this right side somewhere either up here or down here, but I'm not sure where, right? So how will I figure out where to put that branch? Well, how about if we pick a number just on this side of the x-intercept? Like 4. Put a 4 in for x. If I put a 4 into that simplified fraction, I get y equals 4 minus 1 over, let's see here, wouldn't that be 4 minus 3? 3 over 1, so 3. And what was the x value that we plugged in? Wasn't it a 4? So 4 comma 3 will be a point on this graph. So I'm going to go right 4 and up 3. Does that tell me where to draw that branch on the right side of the vertical asymptote? Yeah, it's right here. Correct? This way. This way. And that's my graph with vertical asymptotes drawn in, holes drawn in, horizontal asymptotes drawn in, and my 2 branches drawn in. Okay? Now, the domain on this guy. To find the domain, my domain is anything except what were the values that made my bottom 0. Well, don't forget, I had 2 values that made my bottom 0. I had the value that created the hole, -1, and the value that made the the vertical asymptote of 3. So my domain will be from -infinity to -1, union -1 to 3, union 3 to infinity. And that's how you graph that.